So I don't know if people saw this, and I'm going off page for a second here because I feel like this is an important story. I don't know if anyone saw, there's a documentary series that just came out called Quiet on Set, and boy, is it a horrific, traumatic, um, eye-opening experience to watch. I just finished watching it myself, and it's all about the kind of the darkness behind childhood television shows, especially television shows that my generation, my, peer group, and myself personally have grown up to watch. And seeing this documentary, we've heard voices, we've heard, takes, we've heard glimpses of the real traumatics behind the television industry, especially with young stars. We have seen certain voices have come out and come forward. People from like Corey Feldman to Jeanette McCurdy, who did that fantastic memoir. Just finished listening to the audiobook. It's a very fantastic read. To this documentary. And I gotta say, as someone that grew up in that era, as someone that grew up in the era of watching those television shows from Drake and Josh to, the iCarly and the Victorious, that whole realm of shows that were produced by Nickelodeon, particularly a man by the name of Dan Schneider, which if people haven't seen the documentary, they probably already know who that particular person is. It is just so revelating to witness the behind the scenes stories and to see firsthand the glimpses of what was really going on behind those childhood shows. Because when you're watching these shows as a child and seeing, the shows being played out, you're not witnessing all this. You're not paying attention to some of the obvious signs that now looking back, there's a lot of obvious takes that pointed in the direction of all this. But as a child, you're not paying attention to any of this. You're just laughing along with characters. But to watch it now as a grown adult, and this was recommended to me because obviously me being a political podcaster and exposing a lot of the darkness within politics, pop culture, and Hollywood, this is something I felt like I had to watch. I had to watch this. And considering that this is the era that I grew up watching these shows and now seeing this horrific trauma that these kids have endured, um, gave me a lot of, gave me a lot of empathy and a lot of sympathy for so many individuals that I used to thought back in the day were just going off rails and being train wrecks because of personal problems. I didn't realize that, when you see, for example, Amanda Bynes, she was the top star of Nickelodeon in that era. And seeing how she transformed herself and becoming from young star to whatever she is now, I used to mock that, just thinking that it was just her just going off the rails and partying too much. And she was just, being this rebellious teenager. But now looking back, now looking at this, now looking at what Hollywood has done to these young kids, and this is the entire industry, really, not just Nickelodeon, but the industry does to young stars, young, talented individuals, how they get lured into the industry. They get a couple movie roles or television gigs or whatever. They chew them, they spit them out, and then they throw them out to the streets. I understand why young stars become the disasters that they are now. I understand that now because it's clearly a sign of troubling situation, a troubling trauma that they're dealing with. And they have no way, they have no control to fully express that without being, kind of targeted by Hollywood and the empire within Hollywood. Because it's not just movie making, it's also the CIA's involved with Hollywood. It's also big corporations that are involved in Hollywood. It's also politicians and government that get influence in the Hollywood industry. So when you're a young star, a young child star, defenseless in a mega monopolized industry, it is scary. It is threatening and it is absolutely dark. And witnessing their stories, witnessing their side, and seeing what's behind closed doors is so revelating to me. And this is one of those, this is one of those moments where I recommend and I urge people, even if you have no interest in Nickelodeon, you never watch any of the shows, you have no idea who these people are, I highly recommend, regardless of who you are, to at least witness um what these people are going through and acknowledge that these are people dealing with trauma, and this is trauma that's still continuing to this day, and it's part of a darkening industry that really should be investigated, really should be properly investigated, not just by the measures of, the sexual assault and abuse and just that, but the mass amount of cover up, the mass amount of corruption that's led to this, that's kept this in the dark for so long. It's just, it's mind boggling. And I don't even have the words to say it right now. That's why I'm kind of stumbling. But I highly urge people to watch this because it's just absolutely, it's revelating. It's really revelating. And I just have so much more sympathy for people that experience the childhood stardom dream. I'm sure so many people, like I said, even my generation, my peer group here, dreamed of being stars. Thought it was a cool idea. Oh, you get to be in Hollywood and you get to hang around with celebrities and you make movies and all this stuff. I just now have more of appreciation for those individuals, the Hollywood stars that grew up in that industry, having to deal with all this. Because you're not only just dealing with your own childhood experiences with pressures of childhood, but also you have an entire industry breathing down your throat. And it's just, it is grotesque. And I feel really bad. I feel horrible. I feel bad for these people and I hope for the best. I hope for the justice that they deserve. And I hope this, reveling series um moves forward into acknowledging this problem and maybe actually taking action. That's what I hope at least. But the least people can do is again watch this series and see for yourself just how horrific this kind of playful creative industry really does to young kids. And it's really sad. It's sad, it's disgusting, it's revolting, and growing up in that era, watching those shows, it's daunting. It really is.